TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. Welcome to the Ranking the Tracks on the British Electric Blues, also known as Rock Professor the 5150 Show.
AKA.
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
Yeah, QUE.
You got it. Good to see the Rock Professor here with us.
Yes, sorry about the other day. I missed it all completely. I was busy doing some other stuff, and then you've gone live.
Sent you the link. So sorry about
I know you
that.
did.
It was a little bit interesting because, again, we can talk about this live. I got a message from Brad that day saying that he had some time. Did he want to go live? And I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll take the opportunity because it was really the first time that we've sort of touched base where he indicated, John, you know, that he wanted to go live with us. So he sent a whole heap of pics and vids, and I spent probably frantically the last hour after work uploading those, Simon. And
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, something of a back and forth thing, I would have said.
But we got there, and we did a pretty good video.
Great. Yeah,
it was a good show.
And he's clearly having a fantastic time, isn't he? And hats off to him for that. As a, I mean, it's a classic thing, isn't it? People come from America, Australia, and stuff, and do Europe. So they spend 8 weeks going round doing all the sides of Europe. Fantastic.
Yeah, and good on him, and he's getting a whole heap of sites, obviously, and adventures that we're particularly interested in, John and Simon and folks in the chat from a musical perspective. But we do look forward to doing a bit of a round table, a hangout with him when he gets back. John, jump on and be part of that show with us, and
why not?
We're going to probably hang out with him for a couple of hours and do a bit of a debrief. He's looking forward to that because it's going to be something for him to look back on to in the future, because there'll be a record, Simon, of it here, you know, on the channel. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. And it'd be fantastic to hear his experience. Have you ever done that, John? Have you ever done the European tour thing?
No. I travelled when I was young. My dad's brother lived in Brazil, and we went there a few times when I was a kid. And apart from a work trip to the US back in '95, I've basically stayed on Australian shores since then. There's always been something else to do.
Still time, I would say.
Well, I hope so, because there's lots of wonderful things to see.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Absolutely.
And if I get to the UK, I'll come and visit you.
Well, there's.
I'll let you know what I'm doing. I'll come and visit you.
I've got worse news for you than that, John. I'm quite likely to turn up in Melbourne in the not too distant future.
Oh, so he'll be knocking on your door.
I'll be
come around, knock on your bloody door.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Well, I have one of my oldest school friends, Tony, lives there, and his
Tony.
Sadly ex-wife, right? Tony Bainbridge. Yes, that's not going to work. Tony and Fran, she lives there as well, so she's an old friend of mine. So I have a variety of very old friends that would be really cool to go and see, and of course you and Brad,
Oh man,
get that. Yeah.
Don't say Brad. He didn't come to you.
That's right. He missed me in the UK, but don't worry, I am coming.
No, we love Brad. Definitely. No,
anyway, it's good to see you. Good to see you, John. Thanks for hanging out with us again, for coming back for the second installment of the Bruce Springsteen tribute. And I think that's basically what we're probably going to call these shows, because in a way they are tributes. So I promise you, John, we will do a separate playlist for these videos. I do look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, because you guys are our resident Bruce Springsteen experts. Obviously, people in the chat, you are welcome to rank any of the tracks with us. If you haven't and you're watching on a replay, please, we are looking for subscriptions. That's a fact.
Please subscribe to our channel. We are lovely.
Yeah. Please subscribe to our channel, and even more, please subscribe to our friends' channels. And I'll show you later on how we do that towards the end. If you're unfamiliar where to find those people. But I know that John has a couple of things that he wants to say, and the Rock Professor's going to do a quick shout out, and then we're going to pass it back to John, and then John's going to kick off the intro of the show. Make sense, guys?
I think that'll work.
Somehow, yes, it does.
Fantastic.
Before that, we should shout out Hugh Caldwell, who came on last week, did a fantastic job.
Awesome.
Got over 250 views on the Hendrix thing. So thanks, Hugh. Congratulations. That was really cool. Really cool. So yeah, lots of fun. So and thanks to Hugh, you, John, and Jim for coming on in Brad's absence and taking up the mantle. I think it's been going really well. You've all done a fantastic job.
I'm sure we all enjoyed it. And, it's great to be part of it.
It's great. It's great to have you, and great to feel like that it is a format which people can slot into relatively easily. Of course, it's a bit nerve-wracking when you first do it, but I think because there is that framework that anybody you've kind of got 3 shows, you understand how to do it, don't you?
Yeah. And you have to watch it once or twice to figure it out.
Yeah. It's going to be the scientific scoring method that we.
I get you started.
Yes. What? Hey, don't think. Well, yes. Yes, you can worry desperately about it or not, as the case may be. So we have. Shall I do a shout out to people in the chat? We have 10 people in the chat.
Please do so.
Yeah, so there's John and Simon, me and you, and we've got Andrew, we've got Gretch Zeppelin, morning Gretch, Phil Byers, morning Phil, Anthony Bowen, good morning Anthony, welcome back, thank you so much for tuning in again. Gretch Zeppelin, Ellen, good morning Ellen, fantastic to see you again, hope you're well. And with Jonas Hulberg, good morning Jonas, hope you're well too, thanks for joining. Fantastic, so that's everyone who's. Oh, and Emmett, who's also watching from Auckland, boys. There we are. So, good morning to Emmett.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Roger. Name? I know who Emmett is.
Ah, good.
Is that one of Quentin's birds?
No, Emmett's a mate of mine. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it could be.
It was. He did have it. He did. No, definitely not. He had a buzzard called Emmett.
No. This Emmett's into birds, but not. He's not a bird. No.
All right, fair enough.
Not a bird.
Yeah. He's into birds.
Himself.
Not the feathered ones either.
Oh dear.
I don't think we should drag up Emmett's private life on here.
This is for any Zoomers who don't know what a bird is.
Be shown that the show went off the rails before the 10-minute mark.
Yeah.
And we got Alan. Always a pleasure to see Alan. Thank you, Alan. Always a pleasure. All right, kick it off, John.
Okay, so guys, if I knew that I was going to be back so soon, I would not have given Simon the option of which album to do, and I would have said let's do them in chronological order. Definitely, we might have gained a little bit from rolling the first album, or really the third album, into the fourth album, but be that as it may, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. But just so I'm excited to be back so soon, and glad that we can do this one as well. So, Born to Run.
Do you think I've got enough copies of this?
Well, You know what? I have a CD copy. I have the box set of the nearly 10-year-old now 30th anniversary reissue, and I got rid of my vinyl. I sold all my records off a long time ago, and the only things I kept were my Iron Maiden stuff because of the amazing covers and the Kiss stuff, I think, and a few bits here and there. But I'm kind of annoyed that I got rid of my my Bruce vinyl, but it all got replaced on CD.
Yeah.
But
so yeah,
we digress. So Born to Run. You'd have to say it's definitely Bruce's breakthrough album. He did 2 albums in January and September in '73, being Greetings from Asbury Park as his debut, and then the follow-up, The Wild, The Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. Both great albums in their own way. Both were critically very well received, but didn't really set the charts on fire. And by the time it came to the recording of his 3rd album, it was kind of a make it or break it situation where the record company said, which is more than what they do these days, all right, we'll give you another go, but if you you got to hit it with this one, otherwise back to the bars with you and your friends. So there was quite a big long gestation for this album. The first song that was recorded for it was the title track, and that took them about 6 months. And wow. Then they set up to work on the album in earnest, and that went on for around about another year. And Bruce definitely had a mission in mind with this album. Obviously, to stay afloat and stay on with his record company. But the first 2 albums, if anyone's familiar with them, are definitely products of the time and place that he was in. There's no doubt they are early '70s, Jersey Shore, Asbury Park albums, and he definitely wanted to do something more universal and not so specifically grounded in a particular place and time. And though the way I see it, this is still very much a New Jersey, New York type of album and setting and stories encapsulated in it. There is definitely a feeling that its themes and its stories are universal. They could be happening anywhere. And also the sound of the album, he had a particular soundscape that he wanted to create, and this is a very much some tracks more than others, but pretty much across the board, like an homage to the Phil Spector sound, and there's definitely a wall of sound that comes through this album. Somewhere in the reading and the videos that I've been watching in preparation, I remember them saying there was the Born to Run title track was recorded on a 16-track desk, but they had bounced 72 tracks into those 16 tracks. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. And definitely the album has a particular sound to it. It's very much, though there's, it's not an AC/DC, not an AC/DC album where everything sounds the same. Definitely there is a cohesive sound all the way through it, and definitely probably more so than any of his others. These 8 songs, they all stand up beautifully on their own, but they are all part of a specific 40-minute journey that you go through when you put it on.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
He envisaged it. He envisaged it as being almost as you said earlier, John, almost a concept album, an album's songs that take place during one summer day and night.
Correct.
characters, and this is the beginning of the characters that he develops through Darkness and on through the River and
Yeah.
Born in the USA. The same characters, kind of, you know, where they are in their lives, kind of reflected on where he is in his life. But the characters are, you know, grounded, regular people, and they're kind of in the space that they inhabit, and you know, such as, you know, the street, the roads, whatever. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's interesting that this is really the start of it, whereas the first two are not really grounded in that character base thing.
Yeah,
at all.
there's definitely like on the first two albums are full of characters and
Oh,
great
yeah.
great stories and great songs.
Wild
You
Billy.
know. Well, yeah, and I mean, as great a side two as you've ever heard anywhere else on Wild and Innocent, with those three songs really being a fantastic suite of three songs that just are incredible, one after the other. But
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
Born to Run has that. As you said, he did feel like this could be a whole bunch of stories happening in separate places, but all on the one night. It's definitely a summer night album, and yeah, you really feel like you've just had an amazing night by the time you've got to the end of the last track.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel like you've gone through it all, don't you? And it's a, you know, I think it kind of has an epic quality that is unlike other records, isn't it? I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
and though on the first two albums, they were, the writing, especially the lyrics, very very verbose and definitely conjured up you know, crazy images and wonderful stories. But I think he hit like a different peak with this one, with so, you know, a lot of people always say about this album's extremely cinematic, and even right from the opening, using a lot less words than what he did on the first couple of albums, just paints amazing pictures using our imaginations when we listen to it. And I can't think of any album that would beat it for the images and the visual quality that its words provide.
No, that's right. I think he found a kind of unique vision and a unique thing. I think one of the driving things about it is that when he brought John Lando on to, you know, as you know, the co-producer and his manager and things, and I think that John Lando helped him a lot with lyric editing, and, you know, made him, you know, kind of challenged him and made him look and think further, and you know, and I think that his John Lando's influence over him, still his manager today,
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and his kind of friend as well, which is quite unusual. But you know, I think that is one of the central parts of this, besides the production, and we can get into that later, the story of the production. But you know, I think you can't underestimate John Lando, because John Lando was the rock critic who wrote, you know, I Have Seen Rock and Roll Future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen. Quite a heavy thing to hang on somebody, but
Definitely. Well, at the start, you know, Bruce was very much painted into the sort of the Bob Dylan mold, and he was you know,
Morrison,
a lot of times people were saying that he would be the next Dylan, and he kind of rejected it, embraced it at the same time, I guess. But a lot of the the sort of the way that he would craft his music early on sort of followed that. And I think this is the first bit where he sort of steps right away from that, and starts to become in his own real style, and really follows the vision that he had all along. He was self-admittedly obsessed on exactly how he wanted this thing to be, and you know, you see interviews of the band members saying just how grueling it was to go through and get this done, and he really honed everything down, and his famous notebooks and songs were reworked and rewritten, and lyrics swapped between them, and he really like Michelangelo chiseling away at a stone, was looking for that exact finished product that was always in there, and all the bits that weren't the art got chipped away.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I just found a nice quote about John Lando speaking to the author Brian Hyatt about Thunder Road. He said it was fantastic, but it was a little unwieldy, a little unfocused, a little more like a jam piece. I remember talking with Bruce about a few ideas about how to just reshuffle the deck a little bit and keep the song building from the very beginning right through to the end. So that editing, that honing it down, as you said, John. Clearly, and that's I think where Lando's influence was in and suggesting things for Bruce to read and things for Bruce to see, all those films, and talk to him about America. That's interesting. Yeah, cool. So, shall we do tracks?
Yeah. Oh, we've forgotten the traditional "How did you find this album?" discussion.
Oh yes, of course. Oh God, yes. Off we go then.
Oh, me first. Well. Again, the other thing, the way this whole enchilada could have gone is I could have chosen "Born in the USA" as the first album to talk about, because that's where I discovered Bruce around about 1984, 85, when he became the Taylor Swift of that time, and he was all over the TV and the newspapers, and on every talk show and whatever. And of course, you get into one album, you start looking through the back catalogue, and you start reading interviews and articles like that. And of course, this is the one that's always brought up as the big album, the masterpiece. And I think I mentioned on the previous show, my own personal Luke Foley, my mate, also called Simon, that I grew up with. We were both right into Bruce, and we would coordinate our efforts to make sure that we didn't both buy the same album at the same time, so we could help each other out and get two albums at once that we wouldn't have been able to do individually. Yeah, so definitely. I can't even remember if he got this one first or I did, but definitely it wasn't too far after getting into Born in the USA that we delved into the back catalogue, which was only another 6 albums at the time, 7 if you count River as 2 because it was a double. But so it was around about that time, and truthfully, I've been listening to the album ever since. It's one of these days I rarely listen to a whole album in one go. Everything's on shuffle, but this gets a regular run where it needs to be those 8 tracks in that order in one go.
Yeah.
What about you, Simon?
Well, I as I said last week, I arrived. My first album with Bruce Springsteen was Darkness, and that was when it came out, 77. And I did what you did, which is but I'd heard Born to Run. I definitely heard it before, and I have to say I had not been that struck by it. I don't quite know why, but I'd heard a lot of talk of Born to Run stuff, and I'd heard the title. It'd been on the radio and things, and I can remember not being that struck by it as a track. And but nevertheless, having got Darkness and went back and got this one, got this very album. So I've had for 45 years.
Well, if you're going to freeze, you might as well freeze on a good shot like that, eh?
Oh, bloody StreamYard, stop that. Yeah, so it's bought this, loved it, as an album and stuff, and then clearly, as I said, I got this kind of collector's edition special kind of sound bar and stuff. And the box.
Oh, what's that one? I thought that was just a regular CD when you held it up before.
No, it's something called Master Sound. You see that?
Okay.
It's probably got a slightly better sound. Who knows? But it's got gold. It's gold.
Ooh.
I'm always gotta have gold stuff, you know. It's in all the books. But that's my original album that I bought, and you know, and then I went back and got the first two and things. And as you said, they're much more kind of folks. They're a bit more folksy. It's got a lot more acoustic as
Yeah.
and a lot more wordy in what I would describe as a sort of Van Morrison-esque, Dylan-esque kind of way. You know, that without that kind of that editing thing. So yes, you know, I went to see him in 1981, and you know, well, I like you. I play Born to Run regularly. You know, I mean, I'm a great one for uh, you know, one last time running through it. Oh, look, there we go.
Sorry, Simon, you'll have to repeat
and,
from I'm
yeah.
a great one for.
No, I was just saying I played it like yesterday afternoon, as I would do, you know,
Okay.
last playthrough before the show, and on my stereo. And as you say, you play side one and then you play side two. That's how it works. That's the rules.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you?
I've never owned a copy of this album. The first time I came across this album would have been probably 20 years ago, and I remember I was at a friend's place not long after I'd, you know, discovered John, obviously Eric Clapton, and I was very familiar with the Slow Hand album by Clapton, you know, which had the Stratocaster on the cover, and I remember flicking through my mate's albums, and I think they were his sisters, to be fair too, you know. It's one of the things that you did when you went to friends' houses, Simon. You had a look in their bookcases to see what books they had and their albums, their stack of albums, John, to see what they
I
were
thought you were
listening
going to say
to.
that's what you did. You go through their sister's stuff.
No, never. Not until you said hello. You know.
Stop that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Oh, jeepers! Now you just brought back flashes of memories.
Oh,
you got me. You got me. But I was fascinated by the album because obviously it's a classic album cover, isn't it? It's a classic
when you
cover
think about
of a guy. Yeah,
they're very similar looking covers from a distance.
Yeah. Very similar. You know, you've got a guy that's looking pretty cool with a leather jacket on, and what looked like at the time and we spoke about this in the green room, a Telecaster, and it's like, okay, so let's put this on the turntable. And I remember listening to it the first time and not being particularly struck by it at all the first time I listened to it. But clearly there are a lot of tracks on this album, or 3 or 4 tracks, obviously, that, you know, we've heard lots of times over the years, John. But I'm familiar with all the songs on this album because, you know, if I went to Simon's place for a cup of tea, that's going to be playing, you know, and that album's always there. And you've hit the nail on the head, John, in your intro. I have to tell you about the continuity of the album, because when I did that, when I sat through and experienced this album after probably 20 years of listening to it, Simon, I was struck by the continuity. So you hit the nail on the head, John, with your intro. Fantastic intro. But yeah, 84, again, when 84 came out and Bruce was, you know, the subject, you know, these albums were being played, Simon. So yeah, familiar with them, but clearly nowhere near to the level that you guys are, and I am certainly interested to hear what you guys have to say, because again, John, I don't think I've listened to this album from track 1 to track 8. Probably the last time I did that was 1984.
A
long time.
Excellent. So you've covered it fresh, pretty much.
Just about got my cherry.
Perspective. That's great.
Just about got my cherry intact, Simon. Anyway.
Oh dear. Anyway, moving swiftly along. Yes.
Okay.
Again, folks, we've got Ellen in the chat, and so I know that she'll definitely be ranking, so please feel free. And if you're watching on a replay, let us know what you think about this album and these tracks. Kick it off, John.
All right. So everybody knows the format. We go one by one on these songs. I told the boys that I wanted to do something a little bit different, and we normally go right into the music, how it was made, what they did, where it came from, like that. I really want to go into the listener experience of this album, because this is one that's, again, I'm repeating myself, more than a bunch of songs. It is an album. It is as much as they all stand alone. They come together and create so much more. So with that, the usual thing is song by song and have a bit of a spiel and then give my score. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to say Thunder Road, 10 out of 10. And I'm going to flip it even harder, and I'm going to say, before I even start talking about anything, I'm going to rate every song of this album 10 out of 10. And I'm going to approach this as to why. So you know that going in. I know there's something to hold back and give you description, but what I want to do on today's show is, given the opportunity that this is how I feel about this album, and I totally respect if it doesn't hit someone the same way, but I just think it's a great album, and I just think there's no filler on it. I think that the songs are all separate and different, but all connected and all run perfectly into each other to create a listening experience. And so what I really want to comment on is that listening experience and why each of these songs are so perfectly suited to be where they are on this album. So for Thunder Road, it's the perfect setup for this album. The first two lines don't even need the music for me to just say, a screen door slams, Mary's dress sways, like a vision she dances across the porch as the radio plays. And now all of you have that picture in your mind. You don't just see the words that I've told you, but you see the screen door, you see the porch, you see what is around it, and you see a picture, you see a movie in your mind. And that is the perfect opening for what this album is about to give you for the next 40 minutes. It sets up, obviously, characters, young people that are just on the cusp of adulthood and ready to break free of the ties that have bound them to their current situation. It's as much as Bruce has always been known as writing about girls and cars. It's a song which at the end of it, it's a town full of losers. We're pulling out of here to win. It is just like the opening of the story, and though you probably think of this album as a compendium of stories, it just perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the album and the overall theme of it. Whereas we're all about to start our big adventure, and we don't know where we're going, but we know we got to get there. And the music is a perfect at the start with just the harmonica. It's a like a light, easy intro into it, but it just builds and builds and builds. There's a fabulous, triumphant sounding sax solo by Clarence at the end to finish out the song. It's just got a majestic feel about it, and if it was a lesser album, it'd be a standout track, and it could possibly be too much out of the gate, but it's just a perfect intro to what's about to become.
Fantastic.
Oh,
so for folks that have missed that, that's 10 out of 10.
Yep, 10 out of 10. If you ever figure out that you've missed my score, you know that it's going to be 10 out of 10 for this album.
Hey, well, so yes, Thunder Road.
So just
I mean,
sort of, I twist it a bit, twist the format a bit.
fine. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's I can fill in some gaps, John. You know, kind of like
Yeah,
I mean, it was inspired by Springsteen seeing a poster of a 1958 Robert Mitchum film called Thunder Road. He didn't see the film; he just saw the poster and thought that would be a good,
sometimes that's enough.
would be a good, would be a good title. Absolutely, you know. And it's, as you said, I agree with you. I think it's, you know, it's like 5.5 minutes or 5 minutes of, you know, of a kind of perfection that rarely seen, really. I mean, as you say, it's got a really cinematic opening lines, hasn't it? The screen door slams, Mary's just waves. Sways, by the way, not waves. It's definitely sways. Although it does, I think on this album it does say waves.
There's
Yes,
been
on
a
this album,
debate.
the lyrics.
There's been
Yeah, 40
a debate
years
in
the
the
debate
fandom.
went on, didn't it? Funny, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes.
actually, it is printed as waves on the liner notes, on the lyrics in the gatefold. And back in 2021, John Landau had confirmed in an interview that that was a bad bit of typing, and the actual word should be sways. And then Bruce in 2023 on Jimmy Fallon confused things even more, where he says, "Well, I've been singing sways for 50 years, but I was very meticulous in what I did at this album, and if it says waves, that must be it." But the guy has been singing sways for 50 years.
But in fairness, it can't be waves, because waves doesn't rhyme with plays, and sways rhyme with plays. And if you're going rhyming, it's got to be sways because it's plays. There we are. That's what I know. So
I always sing flutters just to be safe.
Yes, to be contrary. Yeah, I think, you know, it starts off just a harmonica and a piano, you know, and that I talked about earlier about, you know, John Landau getting him to build it, and it kind of gradually builds, doesn't it, with those cinematic lyrics and you know, and you could sense it's the beginning of a story of some people. And I'm going to say this repeatedly, but I think one of the great things about this record never gets said is what a great bass player Gary Talent is.
Oh.
I mean, listen to that. You just really, I mean, it's consistently, I think it's consistently fantastic bass playing, and really, you know, contributes so much to those songs in terms of what he's playing melodically. Stuff. It's just amazing. So I put in a big shout for Mr. Talent, coming from a long line of talents. I think he used to be introduced as. But
I met him in 2003. He's a lovely bloke.
Oh, really? Yes, yeah. I'm sure he is. Yeah, it's always nice to know, isn't it? But I've met Niels Lofgren about 5,000 years ago. I was on a radio show with Niels Lofgren.
There you go.
In fact, a radio show, it was like, it's one of those Fridays, you know, we're going to spin the new discs of the week and we're going to talk about them. When does that? You know, round table. It used to be called round tables, you know. And I knew the local Radio Bristol DJ, Al Reed, and he invited me on. He said, "Come on." And then in the middle of this, we had Niels Lofgren, who was playing at the Colston Hall that night. So he came in and we kind of sat and we asked him a question and stuff about
cool.
You know, his time with Neil Young and stuff. Yeah, it was really, he's lovely. He's a really nice bloke as well. You know, but I just forgot that. Just returned to me that.
There you go.
70, 80, 81, that sort of time. But yes, I mean, I think this is one of the great opening tracks of any album. I'm afraid I'm going way, and I think that final thing. This is a town full of losers, and I'm pulling out of here to win. And if you've never had that feeling when you're, you know, 18, 19, 20, you know, that somehow you're going to go out and show the world what you're going to do. I mean, I think that encapsulates it in a way that you know, that is just fantastic. You know, and I love the lyrics. I think the lyrics, there's lots in the lyrics, loads of stuff in the lyrics. You know, the stuff about you know, paying homage to Dwayne Eddy. You know, stuff and I've got the guitar and learn how to make it talk. All those things. I think it's an exceptional track. I love it still in a way that I've always loved it. I can't, you know, I can never not listen to it without feeling thrilled. And And even when I went to see him recently, he did, it was still a massive thrill. It's a huge score for me. It's absolutely a huge score for me. Never, ever. It is a great opening track. You couldn't possibly listen to this album without doing this first. So there we are. That's my 2 cents. Andrew, get some sanity back into this.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I agree with what Alan has said in the chat too. I think Bruce's vocals
Morning,
on
Alex.
this track's phenomenal, and the intro to the keys, the piano, which becomes clearly, obviously, a significant theme instrument right through this album, is again, as John said, setting you up for a journey which fails to bore or certainly will surprise you. So I've given this track 9 out of 10. Familiar with it. It's played
9?
often on. Familiar
You're
with
banned.
it. It's played often on classic rock along with a couple of other tracks from this album. But yeah, good to see that classic rock are playing this, because I think at the maybe 10 years ago, John, I think this was probably definitely a deep cut a few years ago. Definitely, there's certainly 1 or 2 tracks on here that got spoken about by normies who weren't familiar with Bruce Springsteen. But yeah, 9 out of 10, never a skip. And I agree with what you said in your intro. It's phenomenal opening track. John.
Okay, so
Oh, and can I just interrupt? Good to see Alex in the chat. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Alex,
Good morning,
you,
Alex
bro.
Bradford. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Sorry,
you have to
buddy.
put yourself in timeout now. 9 out of 10. Not good enough. Oh dear. John, off you go.
all right, so track 2, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. You got to say, all hail Miami Steve, aka Little Steven or Stephen Van Zandt.
Yeah.
Bruce and Steve had known each other since they were about 16, and been in several bands together. But once Bruce got his record contract, Steve wasn't playing with him at the time, but was obviously always around, because you hang around with your buddies. And so Steve's contribution, he doesn't actually play anything at all, really. I don't think on this album, but he was instrumental in getting this song sorted. It's got some horn lines in it that, despite Bruce and Roy, the piano player, being writing out charts for the horn players that had come in, and there was sort of some definitely some well-known dudes, the Brecker brothers, and help me out here, Simon. I forgot to write a list down.
Well, yes, let me see, the Brecker brothers, Randy and Michael, David Sanborn.
David Sanborn, of course, is the name.
Wayne Andre, yeah.
Yep. So they came in, started reading the charts, and it wasn't really happening for them. And Steve had just walked in as they were starting to work on this track, and saw that they were struggling a bit, and just went in there and said, "No, I know what you got to do here. I know what you got to do. Put those papers away," he said, and then he's just gone up and he's just sung the lines to the horn player. All right, this is your and that's how it went. And pretty much between that and some other contributions of advice, like a great consigliere, like he played in The Sopranos, he was invited to join the band and hang around permanently. But the song itself
never short on confidence, is he, Miami Steve? Never short on confidence.
In the Simon and I both watched the Wings for Wheels documentary that came with the 30th anniversary reissue of this album. And Steve himself said, I wasn't sophisticated enough to know that I may be being rude or impolite, and just went and said what I said. But the 10th Avenue Freeze Out song is the song about the band. Basically, the character of Scooter is a thinly disguised version of Bruce himself, and it was all about a guy who was out there on his own, trying to do what he had to do, and not really getting anywhere. But then the change was made uptown, and the big man joined the band. And the big man, as we all know, is the legendary Clarence Clemens on saxophone, the only other guy of the band that was featured on the cover there, although around the back of the cover unless you opened it up. And
they wanted it, didn't they, John? They wanted it as a, they wanted it as an open cover, which is only really done for, then it was only really done for single albums.
Yeah,
a single album to have a cover like that was really unusual, and they had to fight for it. But amazing cover. Yeah.
So again,
one can't underestimate the power of the a black man and a white man on the cover together as well in 1975.
That's it. Definitely. Bruce's band up until Born to Run. He also had Davey Sanchez on piano, who was a black man, and his original drummer from the first two albums had been fired by him for personal reasons, and they had another the black guy playing drums who was there for the recording of only the song Born to Run, and then both the drummer and the piano player had left to form their own jazz band, and the rest of the album was completed once they auditioned 30 people for each position and settled on the mighty Max Weinberg on drums and Roy Bittan, who's got the nerve to call himself the Professor. Did he clear that by you, Simon, before he was allowed to do that?
And
we've lost him. Hope we get him back soon. But yeah, so 10th Avenue Freeze Out is a bouncy number song all about the band. And then after the tragic loss of Clarence, this is a song in concert where he'll put up a whole bunch of retrospective photos and video clips as a tribute to his dear friend, and of course to Danny Federici, who also passed back in 2007 or thereabouts. Don't quote me on the exact dates. So this is another great song that has just got a great R&B feel to it with those horns, and tells a fantastic story, and just propels the narrative of that fantastic summer night along. Obviously, it's the story of how they've dedicated their lives to being in a band, and no matter what life threw their way, they'd meet it together.
Yeah.
So sure. As I said right at the start, no surprises. This one's another 10 out of 10.
I think I think that what's interesting is in that Wings and Wheels documentary, in spite of the fact that Springsteen, Vinnie Lopez was in it, wasn't he? As was Mike Appel, the man who he had a sort of 2-year legal run-in with. Because what's interesting, and I watched the him, I think it was him bringing the E Street Band into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he said Mike Appel is here as my guest. So clearly, the extraordinarily the 2-year fight over his career and his music and all of that stuff, he still maintains a friendly relationship with Mike Appel. I think amazing, really.
I forget how long, if whatever time it was after the lawsuit and everything like that. And of course, everybody would have been pretty testy. But I think very early on, Bruce missed his friend Mike, and they, you know, though the way that the contracts and the business sort of like fell by the wayside for them, I think that you know, up until that point, there was definitely a genuine love and trust between them, and something that obviously he didn't want to throw away over stuff like that. And of course, all your yesterdays get you to your today. So he couldn't sort of dismiss the contribution that Mike had done for him.
Yeah, but I still, and you hear so much in the rock and roll, as you know, we had a lawsuit for, we don't never speak to him again. Huff, it's like Springsteen clearly hasn't done that, as he's maintained relationships with people and gone through them, and and I take my hat off him for that. I think that's admirable and has an understanding of we're only here for a short time. If you just make a load of enemies, that's it's not really what it is. And there's a points of principle that have to be fought over, but at some point it hasn't got in the way of his
for sure.
So I take my hat off to him for that a lot. I think that, as you said, John, it's about the formation of the band. Basically, a couple of really nice things. He said 10th Avenue Freezer. I've no idea what that is. It's just a phrase, but it's important.
That's it.
Don't know what it is. I don't know. Can't explain it, but it's important. I also
sometimes
like
the
the
words
fact
are more important than the meaning.
Yeah. The fact that the song's protagonist, Bad Scooter, clearly got the same initials as Bruce Springsteen, BS, which is quite fun. And that thing about Clarence Clemens joining the band. Apparently, Clarence, they were playing in a club, and it was like a really thundery, wild night. And Clarence turns up at the club, opens the door. So it's this really big black guy, in a hat and stuff. And he said when he opened the door literally got blown off its hinges and got blown down the street. But it looked like some elemental force had arrived to. And he said to Bruce, "Can I sit in?" To start, but I love the idea. He opened the door, literally flew off its hinges down the road. It's lovely stuff. And that great story about the horns as well with my own Steve Hansen. It's great. But it's a kind of, to me, this is a bit of a hark back to the stuff he did on his previous albums, a bit more funky, a bit more kind of has that kind of funky element to it that clearly Thunder Road doesn't have. And I think that's, but also, as you say, about the band and about it's kind of has elements of Stax and all that, with all those horn riffs in it and things like that. But fantastic second track. I think real contrast to the first one. 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Mr. Walton.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Helene, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on.
Yes, Helene. How are you?
Alex, thank you for the gift of 5 memberships.
Really
appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that you're passing back to other channels, because that's something that we try to do too here on our channel. We try to get people to subscribe to our friends as well. So thank you for the subs. One day we might be able to do that back. You guys have hit the nail on the head with this song. One of the radio songs, John, that I mentioned to you that gets played on classic rock. Love it. I remember listening to this track the first time. Had that sort of classic 50s kind of rock and roll vibe going to it. And when I listened to it again recently with you guys, in preparation for you guys, it's got kind of underlying soul elements as well. So I love the vibe that's going on this. Again, the keys, undisputable king of the album. And again, good to see that they're on this track. And what did I say about his vocals? One thing that, again, guys, if you go and listen to this, it's the same vocalist, but he sings very differently. His timbre on the tracks are very, very different, and that's probably the way that it's been recorded. and obviously the techniques, obviously that he has as a vocalist, that he's got to have, to keep that interest going, that contrast, which is really important, Simon. I've given this a 10 out of 10. One of the great tracks ever in rock and roll. I had no idea, John, what 10th Avenue Freeze Out was either. So thank you for confirming that it's just one. It's a word thing.
It's a nothing that really sounds like something, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's obviously something you can walk into and you can find when you come around the corner, but no one knows what it is.
No.
You know where it is.
Great, especially track, Bruce. Fantastically funny, that is. Yeah, cool.
John.
Okay.
So the third song probably, as we mentioned, this album does pretty much have a wall of sound, found to it, but none more so than this track. It's called Night, and it's basically lyrically, you could sort of describe it very similar to the Friday on My Mind type sort of vibe. It's obviously someone who's stuck in a job that would rather be doing anything else probably, and just looking forward to the night when you can let loose. And obviously the night of the stories of Born to Run, more so. It's got an urgency to it, right from the get go. It's a quick stab, and then straight into a big sax solo, and you can really feel yourself to pull another Bruce lyric out of the sky, out on the street when you listen to this one. It's got the it's probably the sort of like the I was going to say probably the most urgent sounding song on the album. There's another one that might give it a run for its money, or a couple really. But this is definitely the car song on the album, where there's a lyric where it says, as it changes to green with faith in your machine, off you go into the night. And that's the feel that it gives you. And definitely our protagonists have left their hometown and their humble beginnings, and they're out amongst it in the exciting world of this summer night that we're hearing about here. So I've always loved this song. It's definitely been one to risk a speeding ticket if you're listening to it in the car. But it just really this is the song that after the first two songs introduce the characters, this song really introduces the environment and the city where it's all taking place, and you just feel the buildings grow around you when you hear this song. So again, for its spot in the album, it's probably one of the ones that's not as much of a standout tracks and as well known as some of the others. But definitely it's an important part of this story, because it brings you out into the world where this is all happening. And what's a story without a setting? It's just a bunch of stuff that happens. So definitely this paints the background for everything that has come and is about to come through the songs that we listen
Morning,
to.
Hugh.
Hey, Hugh.
Morning, Hugh. How you doing? Hope you're good. Good to see you. Yeah. So
that's why this is another 10 out of 10.
Of course. The one thing that struck me about it, John, and now this is ran the wrong way, but this is how it struck me, was the first line: "You get up every morning at the sound of the bell. Early in the morning, factory whistle blows."
Yep.
It's like the same thing as just so differently. It's about getting up, working man getting up, isn't it? Yeah.
And this song, probably more than any of them on this album, point towards darkness, because it's definitely some poor bloke in a 9 to 5 or blue collar job or whatever that hasn't really got any passion or love for it, but it's a necessary evil in their life, and they just get through those 8 hours to get back to the life that they want to live. So yeah, it's I think obviously Darkness on the Edge of Town sprung from this album, and was a continuation of where these characters would find themselves a few years down the track. And this song is definitely the place they came from.
I think that makes it a really important song, doesn't it? That you can see that the blue collar themes picked up on this, the racing in the streets, you name them, they're in the lyrics of this, aren't they? Until you're out on a midnight run, losing your heart to a beautiful one, and it feels right. You lock up the house, turn out the lights, and step out into the night. From that, it comes all of those blue collar characters that are in his following albums and things. So I think it's a kind of, for me, this is an underrated track because it has so much that is developed out of it. And I think, as much as the other tracks are, fantastic, this seems to be right at the core of what he does in his next few albums, absolutely. And in a much more kind of overt way than maybe some of the other tracks do. So it's it's just about a working man, and but it has tremendous kind of verve, doesn't it, coming in? And he sings incredibly typical Bruce, giving it his all, 100% passionate singing, but it's very well arranged. It's got some nice funky horn interjections, in the second verse. It's all those things that make it kind of something that pretty straightforward rock song, but it's got a nice piano, and you'll notice that piano is a key instrument on this, isn't it?
Yeah,
piano is and he wrote them on piano. He wrote a lot of these songs on piano and not on guitar. Yeah. So,
and going back to what you said before, Gary on this one as well is just like a powerhouse.
Yeah. And that fantastic sax solo at the end of it as well, which clearly it starts with the sax solo and ends with the sax solo. So the sax solo kind of bookends the song completely. It's got fantastic lyrics, fantastic. It's just it's right at that cusp. You're in love with all the wonder it brings, and every muscle in your body sings as the highway ignites. You work 9 to 5, and somehow you survive to the night. I was like, it makes my spine tingle every time I listen to it. Still makes my spine just, and I think that must be the mark of a great song. But there are things in this. There are it's tinged with what comes next in Darkness and stuff. They're busting up on the outside, but tonight you're going to break on through to the inside. And those things about the external world is already closing in on you, even though you see it expanding in front of you as well. For those blue collar workers. So I think that juxtaposition between the two things is fantastic in the lyrics of this song. Makes it a 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, Alex. I know you've left, but again, thank you for the support that you've given us.
Very
Hugh,
kind.
good to see you, Hugh, and we'll be back here. Hugh will be in the hot seat next week, and we're going to be ranking a Queen album. So make sure you lock that one in, folks. God bless Clarence is all I can say on this track, guys. It's just fantastic. What a great saxophone player or saxophonist. Love it. The rock and roll's got a lot of them. Bobby Keys and Clarence, just fantastic, and what they can offer to rock and roll and to an album, and more importantly to a song, can't be underestimated. This song would never be the same without that contribution. So love it. If you haven't checked it out, I invite you to go and check it out, knowing what these two guys have already told you. I've given it 8 out of 10, and it's never a skip, John.
Cool. And that leads us to the first of the epics on the album, which is Backstreets. And I've had sort of like highs and lows of various tracks, on this and other albums, where sometimes there's something that doesn't quite hit you at the start, but then you grow into it, or something happens to make you all of a sudden see something that you love in it. There are tracks that you love off the get go, and then you may grow bored or tired with them, or there might be some other reason why they lose their shine. But I think from the first time I ever heard this song, it's just been I've just thought it's a brilliant piece, and I've never wavered from that. I've never got sick of it. I could probably listen to it 10 times in a row without getting sick of it. And it's a kind of love story, really. And I think it hit me when the first time I heard it, being probably about 16 or 15, 16 at the time, that this was just it reminded me a lot of our gang. One of our friends, that his family had a house down the beach that we'd go to every now and then and hang out, and it really paints a picture of maybe a not quite like a summertime romance or anything like that, but obviously it's a couple of characters that have a deep friendship, but also a great love. There's a passion to this song, and it's not just like a lustful passion, but also like a spiritual, sort of yearning type passion to it. And it has a searing guitar solo. It has almost a breathless quality to the desperation in it, and it's just sounds like an expansive cinemascape. I mean, we talked before about how these songs bring visions and pictures into your mind, and none more so than this one. I don't even know that I could, sort of say anything besides, if anyone hasn't heard this song, my God, please go listen to it, because it's there's not so much that I could say about it that could do it justice. It's just a fantastic track, and it never disappoints. I just love it.
Yeah, I agree. To me, this is one of the great tracks on this record. I agree with you completely, John. I think that that I could listen to this all day. I think that that the first stanza, one soft infested summer, me and Terry became friends, trying in vain to breathe the fire we was born in, catching rides to the outskirts, tying faith between our teeth, sleeping that old abandoned beach house, getting wasted in the heat. I just that's, it's not poetry, but it bloody is.
Yeah.
It conjures up so much of a night, of a summer, doesn't it? But we've all, I'm sure you and somebody have had that sort of that kind of summer where those where it's everything's open, it's fantastic, and you're hanging out, it's just, and I think it has that that fantastic, clearly he's a romantic, Bruce, isn't he? It's kind of
Yeah.
but I don't think he ever really wanders into the sentimental myself. For me, he doesn't, but and I think the first three, it's just amazing. To me, all that great slow dancing in the dark on the beach at Stockton's Wing, where desperate lovers part with lives of those two kings, etc. I just, I find the lyrics endlessly brilliant, just brilliant. And the song, they're a song for sure. It's not poetry. It's definitely a song, but and that the bit where the end bit, the denouement, when blame it on the lies that killed us, blame it on the truth that ran us down. You can blame it all on me, Terry, but it don't matter to me now. When the breakdown ended at midnight, there was nothing left to say, but I hated him, and I hated you when you went away. And you can't, it gets me every bloody time, that does. Live, I've got Winterland 78, this is just an amazing version of it. Go and search out those if you haven't heard those, the versions from 75, the 78 Darkness Tour, just, to me, and that kind of, the guitar solo that backs up that kind of pain and stuff, is just, it's the right thing. It does the right thing. He's not the world's greatest guitar player, but what he does it backs up that dramatic effect, that he wants in that particular place in the song. And and it's just an extraordinary track, really, to maintain that kind of, over 6.5 minutes, to maintain that intensity, that level of, but letting it dynamic, let it build dynamically, and that the middle bit where it's, and then you have this kind of breakdowns, and Gary Talent, bass player, come on, I can't get over how, because listen to it in a different way for this sort of show, and you start this, you go, what a fantastic bass player that is! What a fantastic bass line! Those melodic bass lines and stuff that really, hook the song. Really fantastic, and and a hugely dramatic ending. I mean, it's a huge score for me. This is one of my favorite tracks by anybody ever. So I'm going. It's a huge score from me. Personally, I think it's just fantastic.
Didn't you say at the start that you didn't really think much of this album? You've the lowest score you've given is a 10.
Yes. Well. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. There's still a whole other side to go, John.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
No. It was the title track. It was Born to Run as a track, not the album.
Okay.
Born to Run is when I first heard it, and I had heard it before Darkness, and I can't. It hadn't grabbed me that much, to be honest. But it's a yes, Hugh. This is a Hugh second Hugh score. Could I say, Hugh? It's a good. Love the idea of having a Hugh score. It's just brilliant. 8,000 out of 100. Andrew.
Love the pianos on this track. Fantastic. Never a skip, guys, and I give this track 8 out of 10.
8. He's gonna be banned in a minute. It's
I'm sorry, guys. I'm calling it as I hear it.
You have
sorry.
to say it as you see it. No?
Yeah.
Yes, as you should be. Sorry.
No, I'll repeat what I said in past shows. Music is a well. We bring our bucket and we take from it what we do.
But if he thinks I'm not going to tease him about it, then he's got another thing coming.
If it wasn't for this, it'd be for something else anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've been banned in the past for my misdemeanors. Anyway, Go on, John. Next one.
And we've spoken ad infinitum in past shows about the importance of sequencing, and so there we go. Those 4 songs make up side 1, and again, brilliant opener, brilliant closer, and nothing but magic in between. So so you in back in the day, you'd get up, you'd flip your vinyl over, and you'd drop the needle again, and you'd get to side 2, track 1, or the 5th song of the album, which is the title track, Born to Run, and
should we do the
title track. Sorry, mate.
Should we do the picks?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, we should do the picks before we do that.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Got all excited in our flow.
Don't have a lot, but here's the show card, folks, that we did. 8 out of 10 is what I gave Helene. So give me a second. I've lost the picks again. Brand, go back to Brand. Born to Run. I think that was the. I think that was the single
in one of the markets.
Yeah. Great photo of Clarence and Bruce. Clarence, big man, wasn't he? Boy.
Yeah, so that's actually a
in every way.
That's a cover to a bootleg, I believe. The photography session for the album cover was done by Eric Miola, and there's a whole heap of photos from that session. Bruce has always credited or titled his live albums as Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, but the studio album's always been just him. And but for this album cover, that he definitely wanted to have Clarence on there with him.
Good.
And yeah, there's been quite a few great photos come out of that session.
That's from his biography, Born to Run.
That's his,
so if you
from
haven't
his
checked out the
autobiography from only a few years ago.
go and check that out. And here's some folks. Here's some pics from the Metropolitan Museum. And if you're following guitar channels at all, there's a whole lot of guitars that have had the opportunity, Simon and John, to be graced at the museum, and this is one of them. So originally it was an Esquire, which is a single pickup guitar, I understand. And
well, actually, I can waffle on about this guitar a bit if you like.
Okay.
Okay, so Bruce bought this guitar for $185 back in the early 70s from a little guitar shop run by a guy that used to do all his work called Phil Patillo. And this was actually a guitar that had a Telecaster body, and the neck was from a Fender Esquire, which is basically the same looking as a Telecaster, but just doesn't have that neck pickup in it. And so this guitar was owned by some recording studio, and so that big black piece of plastic there, for all the people that aren't sort of like 100% sort of like guitar nuts and know all the ins and outs of it, actually has a big hole carved underneath it. And originally, when it was owned by the recording studio, it had 4 separate pickups placed inside the guitar, and all wired out to 4 separate outputs. So what the idea was, that they would record, the session guitarist would come and use it and play a song, and they would do 4 separate recordings at once, and then charge whoever was paying 4 times as much. So it was a bit of a rort,
bit of a scam.
Yeah. So but then obviously the guitar found its way to Phil Patillo, and I don't know if it was then that the neck was changed to the body, whatever like that, but it was obviously reworked into a more standard Telecaster format. Over the years, it's had a few different hardware and electronics put in it. That picture that we see there, you can see it's got a 6-saddle bridge, whereas if you were to look at this same guitar on the cover of the album, you'd see that it had the standard old-fashioned Telecaster 3-saddle bridge. Also, the pickups are different in this one, and then there was for a while there was some Bartolinis in it. For a while there was some rail pickups in it as well. So it has had various modifications, been refretted a few times, and finally had to be retired because this was a guitar that Bruce pretty much used all the time. Would only swap something out if a string broke and get it straight back. And it was in the sort of early to mid 2000s where he started to he put this guitar away and only brought it out for special occasions, and would started to use a whole bunch of sort of custom shop and other sort of chosen guitars here and there. So it's no longer in serious use anymore, but definitely his one guitar, his main guitar. I'm sure he used it for recording the albums that was seen on the Letter to You documentary making of that album. And yeah, it's definitely an iconic axe.
Helen, you can say anything you want about John. That's no problem.
What happened? I've stopped reading. Oh, okay.
Are we still allowed to mention looks? Lol. Yes, definitely. Especially about you.
I thought. Oh no, she's talking about Bruce. I thought she was talking about.
I'm talking about Bruce. That's all right then.
Oh. Okay. And we do look forward to
Fender
coming out with a signature custom shop replica I'm sure it will be a. I follow a Telecaster Facebook group that has over 100,000 members, and that guitar is regularly polled by its membership for a signature or a custom shop version, John. So can't believe one hasn't been done already.
Yeah, well, a telly is a telly is a telly, I suppose. And again, this is like a guitar to me, like Eddie's Frankie or David Gilmour's Black Strat. Depending when you decide to make a copy of it, there were so many modifications and changes done to it over the years. Then what is the definitive version of that guitar?
Tricky, yes. Like one of those, yes, constantly evolving and changing. Yeah, definitely. Anyway,
Right,
let's
side two,
resume with the track. Side 2.
We're now returning to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, yeah. So as I said before, drop the needle down on side 2 and Born to Run. So this, as we said before, was the song that was recorded first. A whopping 6 months in the making. All sorts of trials and tribulations in birthing this one. But yeah, definitely the song that everyone knows, possibly Bruce's signature tune. You say the words Bruce Springsteen, what's the first song that's going to pop into mind? Most likely for most people, it'll be this one. And just a classic. I mean, there have been shows where I remember seeing him on his Tom Joad tour, which was a solo acoustic tour, that he didn't play it. Didn't get played on his sessions tour with that band, but pretty much is a staple, and you'd be scratching your head if this didn't make it out to the encores, as it usually does. Failing that he doesn't play the album in full, which actually I forgot to mention to you guys. Back in 2014, I was very lucky on a wonderful Saturday night to be able to hear this album played. No, it was a Sunday night. Sorry, hear this album played in full at the Melbourne, one of the Melbourne shows that he did on that tour, and man, that's an experience in itself as well. But yeah, this song is just a classic. If ever you're going to call anything a classic and anything out of his catalog classic, it's got to be this one. It is the song all about it's the fulfillment and the explanation and the continuation of the last 2 lines of Thunder Road, where we're pulling out of here to win. It just encapsulates the spirit of this album, of being out there and just another one of those stories on that summer night where the characters are just out to attack life head on and take everything they possibly can get out of it. It's got a great guitar break. It's got another fantastic solo by Clarence. And this is the number where the house lights come on and everybody just loses their mind. Yeah, another 10 out of 10 track on a 10 out of 10 album.
Yeah, it's interesting that it was kind of the first song they recorded, and they recorded it like a year before the rest of it was done.
Yeah,
we've done a finish. They apparently got released to a few radio stations as well.
And that was Mike.
Well before it had been released. Yeah, it's Mike Appel sending it out. And also, it'd been in his live set for ages beforehand. Just these days it's all hugely jealously guarded. Nobody, you can't hear a note until it's finished or whatever. He was playing it live, way before the release of the album. Absolutely.
Well, didn't have to worry about playing it on Saturday and ended up on YouTube on Sunday.
Well, no, that's true. How times have changed. not necessarily
Yeah.
for the best, but imagine hearing it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is, as you said, John, one of his signature songs, isn't it? It is absolutely one of his signature songs. One of the ones you think, well, you know, if you say his name, that's who it comes up with, you know. And I'll reiterate what you said earlier, that that it's the only one done with engineer Louis LaHave. You know, the rest of the album's done by Jimmy Iovine, you know, brought in with John Lando, and also it's the only track to have David Sanchez and Ernie Boom Boom Carter on it. You know, so the only track that Ernie Boom Boom Carter played on. David Sanchez had played on the previous record, longer, yeah. But if you're going to choose a song to play on, probably not a bad one, is it? Really?
No.
Oh, you're only on one song. Yeah. I'm on Born to Run. Wow, I think that's pretty cool myself. I think that's amazing, and starts with that thunderous drum intro. You want an intro, you know, that's in there, isn't it? That's up there with the, you know, Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll or something. Or, you know, there's a fantastic, powerful, you know, hit. You know, you want to be woken up. You know, you want to be lulled into a false sense of security. Comes in with an absolute bang, straight in with the riff, straight in with this. But you know, has, you know, tremendous cinematic lyrics, as you said, John. You know, that kind of, you know, continuation of Thunder Road a bit. And interesting, there is, you know, I think there's a certain number of, you know, mirrors between 1 and 2. You know, Thunder Road and Born to Run, Backstreets and Jungle Land, and you know, you could make a something of a case, I think, for those kind of mirrors of side 1 and side 2. You know, I think the Glockenspiel is a great addition, isn't it? You know, what other track has Glockenspiel on it? I can't think of any off the top of my head. But
again, 72 tracks of instrumentals and vocals on this thing. It's just like, it's got so much going in there. Again, I hadn't watched that doco for a long time. Watched it earlier today, and just the you know, there's strings behind it. There's all sorts of things happening there. The vocals that are buried in there as well. You know, so it's a brilliantly put together thing. As much as, like, you know, there's something to be said for, you know, having a simple 2 guitars, bass and drums, and having a simple setup like that. This is just a masterpiece of a million things in there, all working together to create something incredible.
Yeah, Spectre-ish production. I'm going for. How's that for
and a half?
Cool. You're right. You know, like when you were listening, you start going, God, there's a phase guitar in there, and there's another guitar that's doing the pick bit, and there's another guitar doing the riff, and they're all it's like, blimey, how many guitar tracks on there? There's an acoustic guitar on it somewhere in there as well. I know there's a, you know, kind of basic acoustic guitar that strums through. You know, amazing track, highs, lows, great dynamics, great, you know, that drop down that it does in the middle 8 kind of thing is, you know, is amazing kind of piece of arranging. And I mean, it's a classic. You know, what can you give it? You know, 100 out of 10, whatever you like. But you know, it's a fantastic opener to side 2. Opener to side 2, ladies and gentlemen. Just saying. You know, not even side 1, but you know, opener to side 2. I think that it's, you know, it's a classic, the one that everybody thinks of. So, and clearly never a skip. Need I say it? But Andrew, bring some sensibleness to this.
It's an anthem, isn't it? And I just want to remind folks too that once upon a time there was a period in rock and roll history that there wasn't classic radio stations. If they were classic radio stations, John, they were playing music from the 50s.
Of course.
But I remember listening to this album and hearing this track long before it became an anthem, Simon. And it was definitely a standout track for me when I was a young fellow. It was just phenomenal. And when you get a little bit older and you start reading things and having conversations with people, then you realize, oh, this wall of sound concept, this wall of sound philosophy that Springsteen had with his management and with his engineering and his production team. And then you start hearing, my gosh, as the rock professor said, there's 12 guitar tracks. It's like, what, really? And you've said it, John, 72 instruments on this track, And I remember when I first read that or saw that, must have been that documentary about 10 years. Phenomenal, because on my first listen, when I was listening to it when I was 16 or 17 or I don't know, around that age, I'm going, yeah, this is great, Simon. This has got bass and this has got guitars and this has got drums. It's a rock and roll. But then you start hearing, what goes behind the scenes on a lot of these albums and these tracks. It's just remarkable. I should have watched that documentary too in preparation for this. I ran out a bit of time, John, when you put up that you were doing some research and using that documentary a couple of days ago. So thank you for prompting me and reminding me. I put that down on my DVD list of DVDs to go and watch before the year's out. But the lyrics, the rock professor has said it, the whole album's just full of lyrics that are a standout in itself. The guy's a poet. He's up there with Dylan. You said, John, that he was marketed early on in his career as a kind of Dylan. And, he's kind of proven himself to be up there with this album, and certainly now in 2024, probably surpasses Dylan, in my opinion, with his lyrical content. But, that's probably the topic for another show. But this is a Brad score. This is definitely a Brad score. I just think it's phenomenal. It's the one that, Simon, you said that people know, and for good reason, because it is just a great track. Never a skip, and definitely a standout on the album. John.
Yeah, just going back on that, so on the Dylan thing, so Mike Appel was the guy that got him his audition with John Hammond, who was the guy that signed Dylan as well. So he was very much, on the strength of like a 5-song, basically an acoustic demo, got his deal. So that's what they were expecting with him, and they were, apparently the record company was quite surprised when he rocked up with a band to record his first album. They were expecting to be a there with an acoustic guitar and a stool or something like that. So
famously surprised his record company. Yeah,
that's it.
Who were they?
The old bait and switch.
Yeah, who are they?
I'm glad he did that. So next track on this album is track number 6, side 2, number 2, "She's the One." A song that's based on on the classic Bo Diddley beat.
Of course,
but its instrumentation starts off sparsely and builds and builds and builds. If Backstreets was a song about passion and a love story, this one is a desperate passion and a single-minded need for this particular character in the song. Live, they used to do it with an intro of either Mona or what's the Rolling Stones number? Gone blank again. There's a Stones song that's along the same beat that they used to do this as well. Not Fade Away.
I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. You're going to give your love to me. Yes,
that's the one. And it's had some amazing versions over the years. But the one off this album is still always up there as one of the best. It's like almost a cacophony, but so brilliantly executed that it's just it all melts together beautifully. Live you can see all the players like virtually taking all of them taking a solo and a feature at once. But yeah, this track again for 16-year-old me, just sort of trying to figure out what those other side of the human race were all about, and being equally obsessed and equally fearful of, I guess. What the hell are we getting into? Why do we want them so much? Yeah, this is a great song that really builds on the passion that you have when you're a young person, trying to get your first love, I guess. So yeah, this is another one that just propels along, and by the time it finishes, you're spent. Thank God there's a slow one after
it. Yes, indeed. Draw breath. So I don't have much to add, John. I think that the starting off just with that subdued strummed guitar and the piano,
Yeah.
just kind of, and then the whole verse, just that, and before you get that, da 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 da, bang, bang, bang,
Oh.
Bang. I mean, it comes
And
in
then
like
you're off.
you've been hit with a truck, as you said, playing that to Bo Diddley beat. But it's not a blues song, is it? It's not.
No, not at all.
It is not. There's nothing else about it that is rooted in the blues at all, really. Which I think is literally just that beat, and it's got that, again, more funky middle eight and great sax solo as well. Clarence Clemens, bass playing, great bass playing as well. I think, as I said, on here, I've a tremendous new admiration for Gary Talent, and his, because his bass playing on these tracks is incredible. Worth checking out if you haven't. I think, it said I would never skip it. I give it a 9 out of 10, but I would never skip it as a song. I think it's a fantastic lead on from Born to Run. I think, slightly in the shadow, tricky, but I think it does that. It's got, like we said on the track 1 and track 2, Thunder Road sort of builds up 10th Avenue with it, so kind of slightly different vibe, but it kind of maintains the energetic motion of side 2, doesn't it, as a into the second track, and I think that does exactly what it should do. So yes, 9 out of 10 for me, but never a skip. One was over in the middle. Andrew.
Yeah, it's always difficult, isn't it, Simon, to follow clearly what is going to be one of the standout tracks on an album with another song. Even if the artist knows himself that this track is, that the chosen track is a fantastic track. I suppose the debate for a lot of the production team is what track do we put after this obvious masterpiece. So that's on these albums, and it's one of the things, John, obviously, that we like to talk about weekly, because there's always a couple of standout tracks on an album, isn't there? That's a point of discussion for us.
Yeah,
but
this one's got a list, eh?
Well, that's right. But the surprise for me, when I was listening to it a couple of times, I made this note here that I can't believe this album was recorded in 1975. And that occurred to me after I listened to this song, because this album, John, could easily sounds 10 years ahead of itself. It's not something that I listen to, Simon, that I think is back in the past.
It's not dated at all.
And I found when I listened to it a couple of days ago, after listening to this track, it must have been revolutionary for people to be listening to in 1975, because it doesn't sound, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but we know a little bit about rock and roll, don't we? And this doesn't sound like a lot of albums, John, from 1975. So definitely an album of what it is for the artist, and 75, but certainly projecting its sound into the future, if that makes any sense.
And when you hear the
I
the
think,
sort of like the
Andrew,
actual,
that
I was
go on,
going to
Don,
say
go on.
when you hear sort of like, again, Phil Spector is credited as creating that wall of sound sort of method, and when you hear the stuff that Phil did, not that it sounds old, but it's definitely of its time. Whereas this definitely has that vibe, but doesn't sound like it's stuck in any particular time period. And I don't know whether it's because I've been listening to it constantly since I've ever discovered it. So it doesn't, this is not like a this year album for me. It's always been a now album for me.
Yeah. I think you'll find that a lot of albums from the 70s sound fantastic today, because I don't think there's nothing particularly in them that says this is the 1970s. You move to the
Yeah.
80s,
Good point.
there's all manner of,
Yeah.
Linn drums, chorus
Yeah.
guitars. You go, oh, that's
Yeah.
an 80s thing, whatever it might be. And that, we've done this a lot, and that happens a lot, and it starts to become, and you can pin 80s records to the 80s, and,
Good point.
and I think especially with drum sounds and things like that, and I don't think that's the same. I don't think that's the same for albums made in the late 60s and early 70s. To be honest, I think it's they still sound great now, because actually the things that people are doing now, like a lot of DIY stuff, and bands that are not making it on their computers, but are still getting in a room and playing and stuff, because that's a really good way of making a record and things. They don't sound that different to things from the 70s, like Born to Run, I put on.
And I can't remember what song they were talking about, Simon. If you recall, please jump in. But Jimmy Iovine was talking on the documentary, saying that they had all the different tracks and all the faders, and they had like 6 people all with their hands on the faders, coordinating this one's up, that one's down, like that, as they were doing a mix. And it had to be done. Nothing was computerized like what it is today.
Manual.
And
That's right.
then the minute someone had stuff up, they'd have to stop, go back to the start, and everybody be coordinated, putting them up and down as the parts needed to fade in and out to the track. So this wasn't a simple record to make by any stretch of the imagination.
No. Well, I think they got
Jungle
over.
Land.
Do you know? Was it on Jungle Land? Yeah. Do you know who? Do you know what the previous record that Jimmy Iovine did before Born to Run?
No.
He did John Lennon's Walls and Bridges before this.
Oh, there you go.
So he had some practice for the legend.
Yeah.
But well, no, but I think album. Yes, absolutely, yes. I'm going to go too far with that, but no, it's just fun context. But
So good point, guys. But it struck me remarkably when I was listening to this track, John, that there was this freshness, and so we've answered that question, folks. And thank you, Hugh, for saying that it's a good point. And so I'm sure there'll be similarities to the album that we're going to be listening to this week in preparation for next week. But yeah, you're right, Simon. The 80s definitely had a thing, didn't it? And this was an album that wasn't linking back, John, again, I think, to that classic sense of that Spectre wall of sound. Wasn't going. So great points. Thank you, guys. Love the sax solo on this. It's a fantastic song. It's never a skip. And again, I'm glad that we're talking about the production on these albums, because all these great albums, that we talk about have either, Simon, they recorded really simplistically, or they're like this. There's a lot of work that's going on into the production of it. I've given this 9 out of 10, John. It's never a skip. Great follow-up. Great.
Could I say, it's on? He played in Cardiff this year.
Fantastic.
When I went to see him a month ago. Still playing it live, and on those sort of 78 things, he combines it with Mona as well. So he makes it into a long thing. He starts off doing Mona, and then he'll go into She's the One, which is fantastic. Kind of, juxtaposition between the two tracks, linking them together. really cool. John.
So now that we've waffled on about Wall of Sound, the next track is the complete opposite.
Not Wall of Sound.
No, not at all. It only got basically, so it's got Roy Bittan playing the piano, Richard Davis playing an upright bass, and Randy Brecker playing a trumpet with Bruce's vocal on top. So that's the whole thing. So the very antithesis of the Wall of Sound. Meeting Across the River is the name of the song, and somewhat unfairly, I think, pretty much always seen as a prelude to the final track, Jungle Land. Certainly, I don't think I've come across a time where he's played it in concert where it hasn't been paired with Jungle Land following it. More often than not, as we know, your mood and your things change up a bit, and depending on what day you get asked what's your favorite song, you might have a different answer. But more often than not, if someone is to ask me what my favorite track off this album is, without thinking, I will say Meeting Across the River. It is a brilliant mood piece. If the two opening lines of Thunder Road painted a picture, you know, the opening of this song where it's just, hey, Eddie, can you lend me a few bucks? Can you give us a ride? I've got to make it through the tunnel. I've got a meeting with a man on the other side. That one paints a picture, but it also tells the entire story. And it is just an incredible, you know, we say paint a picture. It's like an impressionist watercolor. There's not a lot of definition there, but it just says so much, and it allows you to bring all of the detail and all of the story from your own imagination into that. As a young kid hearing this, I could see those New York wrought iron fire escapes, and those, you know, those just the cityscape behind it, and the shady deals and the goings on, and the ratty apartment where he's trying to convince his girl that he's going to finally make that big break that they've been waiting for, and she's just like on the verge of just throwing it all away from him because again, it's been something that's never happened. Yeah, for all the stories that go across this album, this one is just so beautifully and expertly given to us with such minimal brush strokes to create an incredible picture. And just the sound, the mood, I'm just so incredibly moved by this song every time I hear it, and I just love it. And again, it is a perfect intro to the next track. But man, it is just so good, even just stand alone. And again, to the brilliance of sequencing of the album, and the way that my point that I made at the start is why all these songs are perfect as what part they play in the overall story that they do. Yeah, this album, it just comes together song by song to create just a world that you can marvel at, and you can just soak in each time you hear the album.
Yeah. Yes, it's I must say, when I was much younger than this, I would have said, if you'd asked me 30 years ago when I got into it, I would have said this conforms to my theory of the second last track is the weakest on the album. I've had to some extent changed my opinion about that. I still find it a bit anomalous. I think it's a fantastic track, and I think, and it has a mood. It does all the things you say, John, and it's not, there's no weakness in it. I think my personal relationship with it is not as doesn't have enough guitars in it. Not quite as strong with it, and it never has been. And I think that I wouldn't, but I sometimes, if I'm listening to it, I sometimes think, I think I'll just go on to Jungleland. I wouldn't skip it, because I think I agree with you. It's an album. It has a flow, and it fits beautifully with Jungleland. And I think that's a fantastic point you've made about that. As it's like a prelude to Jungleland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similar kind of underworld,
And there are
kind
times
of
that I hate that it
dodgy
is,
crime themes kind of thing. Yeah.
because
So,
I think it deserves more. I think
it
it deserves more than to just be the, sort of like the prelude or the footnote to it. To as brilliant as Jungleland is, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I totally understand why like that. And yes, it is the one track that has the different sound. As much as it fits in, but it does have a different sound to the rest of the album, and I get why some people just may not be caught up in it. But I don't know, it just found something in me, this song.
Well, it's fantastic, and that's that's if a song does that, then it's fantastic. As I say, it's for me it's an 8 out of 10, but I won't skip it, because I think, as you said earlier, this is an album. It's an album you listen to all the way through. You don't skip the tracks. You don't. But as I say, 30 years ago, I would have said it subscribed to my theory. This is the weakest track on the record. Which is not the case, really, because they're all fantastic songs and stuff. But yeah, 8 out of 10 from me, but not a skip. But sometimes I think I have to be in the mood for it, in a sense. Sometimes I'm not quite in the mood for that kind of jazz noir kind of film feel kind of thing.
If I didn't love it so much, I'd feel the same way.
Yeah. Anyway, Andrew, what say you?
Thanks, John. Thanks, Rock Professor. You guys are incredible with giving your feelings, thoughts, and opinions on these great songs, and obviously our folks in the chat as well, contributing with their scores. Always appreciate it. Rock Professor, clearly Bruce Springsteen has a thing for rivers and tunnels.
Well spotted. Yes, excellent. Well done. Yeah.
Yes. So this idea of traveling through something, or traveling across something, or traveling down something is, it's a big part of, the process that Bruce Springsteen has as a songwriter. And after all, isn't that the journey of life, John? Well, so there's no surprise there. Rock Professor, I would have skipped this back in the day too. I would have skipped it back in the day. But listening to this album over the last week in preparation for this show, gave me one point that I'd like to share with you, John. I'd never skip this track now, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it dovetails into the last track. I didn't realise the significance for Springsteen fans, because, once you get that kind of feedback, we've spoken about this before, Simon, you go back and listen to something knowing a little bit more about these tracks, you appreciate them. It's like when you read a book or a biography or an article, or see Rick Beato, and hopefully when people watch the Rock Professor here talking about a point, it has that same kind of effect, when they go back and listen to something. So if we're all learning and sharing in that experience, well done. Because I certainly have, because I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Bruce Springsteen. I've been blessed to be on a show with a couple of guys that definitely and certainly do. But I'll add this point, after I listened to this track a couple of times. I would have loved Bruce to sing this song just with his acoustic guitar. I reckon if he'd sung this song with an acoustic guitar, and this is backing up what you said, Rock Professor, you want to hear guitars, so even an acoustic, I would love to hear this with an acoustic guitar, because then I think it would definitely be a Brad score or even a Hugh score for me. But as it is, John, I'm giving it 8 out of 10. But it's definitely not now a skip, John.
Yeah, I wonder if it was just like done with an acoustic guitar, whether it would really give the same. I mean, to me, that sort of haunting trumpet, that it just sounds far away. And in my younger years, I had this obsession with my own vision of what I thought New York was from what I'd seen in movies and TV and stuff. And if any of the songs are a New York song on this album, it's this one for me. And I often thought about how this would sound as a like I've heard lots of these songs, Thunder Road. I've heard Born to Run, and in sort of like stripped down versions. It'd be interesting how this one would come across. And I suppose also the difference is hearing a stripped down version of a song when you already know what the other version was. Would be different to just like someone who'd never heard it before and just hearing it with the guitar. And I get what you say. This song is a real mood piece for me, and I'd struggle to think of it done a different way.
No problem.
I've just been looking. There is a version of it, an acoustic version of it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I'll check it out. Thank you,
Yeah,
Simon.
I'll have to find it.
So check it out and see what you think of it done with the without the horn stuff. I've only listened to the first 30 seconds of it, so less than that. But
cool.
Yeah, check it out.
Been reading my notes.
See if it's there. But yeah, apparently he did. We're always reading your notes. Just checking that we can get in before you.
I won't make that point. It's already been made. John.
Make it go on. Make it reiteration. Is never a bad thing.
No. It's okay. It's all good.
No. Okay. John.
Okay, so the album closer, the side closer, the epic to end our journey here is Jungle Land. And this is if there's a masterpiece on the album, this is it. I think even more than the title track. This has got it all. It's got the slow bits, it's got the fast bits, it's got the big story, the cast of characters, the places. It's an album in itself, just about, or it's got about as much ups and downs and bigs and smalls as some albums have throughout their whole run time. It's definitely an iconic song. If it was if the album's all about stories on a one night, here's the big culmination, the big showdown, and by the time you get to the end of it, you know that you've been all the way through an incredible journey, being the album itself but also the song. This is one that's always brought up a million pictures in my mind, and I think is the probably the epic of all epics of Bruce's catalogue. It's a long song, but doesn't feel long. It's very much you get through it and you just wonder how you got through it so quick, to tell you the truth.
Yep.
There's a bit of everything for everyone. You're complaining before, not enough guitar. It's got a ripping guitar solo. It's got one of the most amazing saxophone solos ever recorded. The story behind this is that it took about 13 or 16 hours to record this with Bruce you know, coaching Clarence note by note, and
Wow.
they went through several
phrase by phrase,
recordings, and then the final solo was actually a compilation of parts of this one, parts of that one, parts of this one, and that one, and it's something that has become iconic, so iconic that when Clarence passed away, his spot in the band was taken by his nephew Jake, and who's done a fantastic job. And it was a long while before they chose to play Jungle Land again. And pretty much up until the time that it was played, everyone believed that the song had been retired, because it was so it was such an amazing, you know, Clarence was so much associated with this song, you know, and of course all you know, there's any number of classic Clarence solos through Bruce's work, but this one more so. It just you know, and I've seen video of that first performance, where Jake played his uncle's solo, and it was almost like a catharsis and almost a religious experience for everyone to have this song brought back to life. There's obviously that connection of family there that perhaps made it all the more poignant. But yeah, this is an amazing tune, lyrically and musically. It took a massive song to culminate all the threads in this album, and this one does it in spades. An amazing track, another 10 out of 10, 8 10s out of 10s in a row for me, and just you know, a place for everything and everything in its place, as far as I'm concerned, in this album. Not a word out of place, not a note out of place. The arrangements are immaculate. I can't say that this is my favorite album. I can't say that I think this is the greatest album, but you know, it's a perfectly executed piece of art. And you know, yeah, you can grab this song, you can grab that song, and enjoy them all. Something special happens when you listen to these 8 tracks in a row. And yeah, that's why I've been listening to it ever since I first listened to
it. Fantastic. Yeah, I think interestingly that it you know, listening to it this week, particularly with sort of critical ear and stuff. First thing that struck me is that it kind of has a kind of link to what the stuff they were doing on the Wildly and the E Street Shuffle with Dave, those kind of longer, you know, rambling kind of storytelling, as you said, John, quite, you know, very kind of, you know, image heavy and stuff. And I think lyric wise, it kind of has a, you know, has a link to those you know, the characters, the Magic Rat and all of that stuff, you know. Feels like it's the characters that happen on, you know, on the first 2 albums more than maybe this one. So I think there's a bit of a link back to that as a, you know, as a kind of lyrically, particularly, not so much you know, musically, but and I agree with you. I think, you know, it's, could I say this song is the template on which Meatloaf had a career? I'm just going to say that. Yeah, you know, I think this. I may be being unfair to Meatloaf, but and of course Roy Bittan and Max Weinberg played on Bat Out of Hell.
They did.
So there's the link there. But I do feel like this song is the template for Meatloaf's entire career. I mean, it has everything, doesn't it? As you've said, John, it has that kind of, starts off just with the piano and, you know, the violin with Suki Lahav playing that thing, and then, you know, and it's joined by more strings, you know, and it's not until you've got like 2 minutes in, pretty much, and one of the comments, you know, you start having a guitar, you know, it's got that kind of what I would call an overture, you know, that the stuff at the beginning before he starts singing, but he's still only singing the first verse over the piano. You know, it's kind of before, as you say, it kind of smashes into that sort of electric guitar middle section. You know, with you know, that great sort of like rock and roll, you know, guitar solo and things. That is just incredible, and you know, and it fits the song. I mean, you said just now, a note, not a note out of place, and I think that's a really important point. Is, you know, that you know, it fits the song, it does something in the song, you know, does what it's supposed to in a song, and you know, and then it goes into that bridge, and then, you know, as you said, that smoky kind of, you know, you know, that really takes it to another place, you know, and enables the lyrics to go to a different place, and it gets more melancholy, and it, you know, and I think that it backs up all of that so much, you know, in such a fantastic way. You know, that, and you know, I never get bored of this song. I never think it's too long. You know, as you said, it's kind of, was it 9 minutes or something? nine and a half
it's
minutes
like a
long.
time machine.
You know, yeah, it's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary piece. You know, every fact, oh, could I say at the end that bass playing is just amazing. You know, just you know, melodic and kind of but holding it down and stuff, and you know, and then those strings that swell back in. You know, just kind of give it that hugely cinematic kind of feel to it. Amazing.
It goes in and out so many times. Like after the sax solo, you're down to, after experiencing like a massive wall of sound, and it's just down to like one piano chord being played, and that's it. And
that's right, yeah.
Ring out in the silence around it. It's just it's incredible.
Yes, that beautiful use of space, and you know, and just you know, as I've said so many times on here, you know, clearly you know, these days you recorded it and produced it, mixed it on what you were hearing, not on what you were seeing. You know, you could imagine now somebody go, oh, we can't just have a piano in that. We need to have this, you know, and all of a sudden it'd be full up with a load of nonsense, which it doesn't need, you know, kind of thing. So I think it's an extraordinary operatic, atmospheric, filmic piece that is, you know, is fittingly, you know, I think that, you know, Backstreets and this are, you know, a kind of similar kinds of songs. They're not in thing, but they're both long and they both have great peaks in them and stuff. And I think they're amazing. But this particularly is, as you say, is an album on its own. And as I say, a career for Meatloaf off the back of it.
Well, Backstreets is definitely like a two-hander. It's like, you know, it's you know, the two main characters in the story, whereas Jungle Land is like you're in the middle of the city. You know, there's a city's worth of characters in that song.
Yeah, absolutely, and that great cinematic. It's enormously cinematic. That you feel like you could make a film out of it somehow. Magic rats and stuff. 1,000 out of 10 for me. Brad score. You know, I mean, it's one of the great songs that he's ever produced, and as you say, and I think you know, a fitting end to the album. You know, does exactly, you know, and that beautiful thing that it just fades out at the end. You know, the end of the album is, you know, just that kind of organ holding the note. You know, just kind of, it just fades out beautifully. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Andrew.
I just want to say again, thank you, Helen, for joining us. And I can see that you're getting some great messages there from Alan and Hugh, who have missed you. And great to have you back. And we know the reason why Alan has been away, you know, looking after, you know, family and stuff like that, you know, causes, you know, issues with time and where you're going to spend your time. So thank you for joining us, Helen. It's been a while. Good to see you the other day when you were on. I'm glad, John, you gave us the backstory on the saxophone playing, because I too have a story to tell in relation to this song. So back in the day, I used to play with a couple of guys, and one guy in particular who we used to play with, his name was William Greeny, and he was the bassist in this group of guys that we used to get together with. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he took the saxophone after hearing UB40 in their first single with the saxophone. What can you guys remember what the
the first UB40 album?
Yeah, the single.
Or the oh d- yeah,
Oh,
the
I
first
can't
one.
remember.
I'm looking it up now. You keep
I'll
going.
Okay, yeah. So he took up the saxophone, and clearly a gifted guy, because he was playing sax notes within weeks. And I remember having a conversation with him, John, talking about saxophone players, and I thought that I knew a little bit back in the day. Obviously, I was a Rolling Stones fan, listening to Exile on Main Street and Bobby Keys. He was, for me, at a young age, he was the defining saxophone player.
Yeah.
And I remember William telling me, go and listen to this black dude called Clarence, who plays on this album. And I said to him, I'm familiar with the album. And he said, well, go and listen to the last track. If you go and listen to the last track, you're going to hear the best saxophone player you've ever heard in your life. So I remember getting the cassette tape and listening to it going, holy shit, William, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, John, when Born in the USA came out, and it was on MTV, and it was on the video, every time a song from that album came out, I always remembered back to that conversation with William Greening. So, William, if you're ever watching this, thank you. I have to agree with you. Didn't know the backstory, so again, John, thank you for that. With the nephew coming through and having a spiritual significance for the band, semi-spiritual significance, certainly a foundational piece for the band, for them to get it right and bring it back. So love those stories. That's what rock and roll's about. It's more than just the music, isn't it, John? It's the stories too. And dancing, what is it? Paint, like dancing on wallpaper? Dancing on
Talking about music is like dancing about architecture.
Yeah. So, and John's a clear example of one of the reasons why we love talking about music. When you go back, folks, if you're watching on a replay, you've had some phenomenal introductions to some songs. So go and check it out. I loved the phrase, Simon, soul engines. We're just soul engine. It's just, I remember thinking, wow, we're just soul engines, man. And for about 3 or 4 of us, it became like an in thing, John. Only for 4 or 5 guys. It wasn't, unfortunately, 40 or 50 or 400 or 500 like it probably is now. It's probably 5 million or 10 million. It's insider term now, isn't it, for all you Bruce Springsteen's fans? Always love the lyrics on this, Simon. I think this, and definitely Born to Run, John, for me, are the defining songs on this album. And 9 minutes, jeepers. I've said to you guys before, sometimes you can listen to a song and you think, my gosh, it's a long song, and it's only 3 minutes. And sometimes you can listen to a 10-minute song, Simon, and you can think, like some of those Cream jams, they're 20 minutes or 10 minutes, and they actually feel like 3 hours. But listening to this, John,
Bohemian Rhapsody is like that too.
Yeah.
5:55
classic
feels like
example.
2.5 minutes.
Classic example. Yes. And this song is in that category.
Similar
I
song in so many ways, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, very good point. And I remember thinking, wow, 9 minutes. That's pretty long, but just remarkable. You just get caught up. He's definitely saved the best for last. Definitely, and because of that, and like what you said before, John, a couple of songs ago, there's a song that's going to have a special significance for you when you're a young guy, and that's what the show's about. It's about what the song means for you as well as what you're hearing. We've never hidden that fact, Simon, haven't we? It's,
no.
It's like that tree falling in the forest. It means nothing until someone hears it.
Correct. So the fact that some songs have blown you away and been a big part of your life, just reiterates for us all the power of music. But yeah, this track, man, is just
Yeah.
phenomenal, and I've got to give this. Is he in the chat? Hugh score.
Yeah.
1 in 10.
Hugh score.
John is right. I am the 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. Yeah. Wow. And yeah. Clarence, God bless. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Clarence.
Yeah. Yeah, it was over a year before they played it again, before they played it with
Wow.
Jake. Yeah. Just rested it for a year. And I think when he played it for the first time, they had a big picture of Clarence Clemens on the screens behind.
Had to.
Of course.
Yeah. Must have been a
listening
real,
to the crowd reaction to it was amazing.
Yeah.
I
Even
really
now
appreciate...
he does it,
Sorry, Simon.
Go on. No, go on.
No, I really appreciate the backstories that we get, on these tracks, and having the passion come through, certainly on your intro, but also on these songs, Simon and John, because we have to include the Rock Professor, because we've known, if you're a friend of the channel, the Rock Professor will always put in a Bruce Springsteen quip about something. So, we had to do it. And then when we found out that John ZD351 was carved from the same piece of marble, well, we had to get these guys on.
Oh dear. We've ruined Andrew's life now.
But I do look forward to when we do Born in the USA, because again that has huge significance for me. So
yeah, that hit its 40th anniversary a couple of weeks ago. So maybe we should have done that one.
We should have done that. Oh well. Could we pick up on Hugh's point about Bruce? That Bruce has this very similar writing style to Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, well, yeah. So,
I would say Mark Knopfler took something from Bruce Springsteen on that.
yeah, definitely. Very observant songwriters. Very observant, taking into account, their environment and reflecting that back in songs. But again, Rock Professor, as you said, and John, you said too, he was schooled by his manager, to go and to watch these things, to look, to read, to observe. We should be doing that to people now, because when you drive and walk around town, or you go out and have a meal with some friends, and you see 4 people at a table, and what are they fucking doing? They're sitting there and they're looking at their fucking cell phones. The world's going by, Simon.
That's it.
You can't write songs. You can't write songs if you're looking at your phone.
Put it away. Put your phone in your pocket and concentrate on the people you're with.
Do you think that would be the first thing a manager would say to his artist today if they showed any kind of initiative, John? Get rid of that fucking phone.
No, you know what? Nowadays, the manager is looking to make sure that they get as many Instagram followers as possible.
Pull that phone out.
It's not a bit, and again, the whole record industry thing is just changed. It's not how good you are. It's how many followers you're going to bring to the record company. It's a completely different.
You're right.
It's a whole other universe. That's the only way you can put it.
But thank you, John.
Not necessarily in a good way.
Well, we're going to be winding it up soon, folks, because I've got a dog here that's biting at my ankles for me to go
over time again. Sorry.
For me to. No, it's all good. It's fantastic. But we're going to go around soon between us, and I just want to say thank you again to Helene for jumping in. The Rock Professor's going to do a shout out soon.
Yes, lovely to see you.
And John ZD351, brother, thank you for coming on and giving us some wonderful insights. John is going to be doing more and more with us, whether he likes it or not, folks. So, but I
guess I've been told.
Yeah. But we certainly will be doing something. We'll be doing a group hangout with Brad.
Is that what they call it these days?
Well, something like that. We're going to call it a bro down.
A round table
certain,
discussion.
yes, to hear the true story of what actually happened in Europe. But thank you. John, I'm going to ask you to say a few things and then we'll get the Rock Professor to wind it up, if that's okay.
A few things. A few things about what, mate?
Oh, anything. Anything you want.
Like I said to everyone, I wasn't too sure if my plan of switching up the format was going to be a good thing or not. But I think rather than hanging out, waiting to hear what the scores are going to be and what songs don't I like, I really wanted to push my personal experience and my opinion. Music's all about opinions, there's no facts.
Sure.
That this is just an album that's expertly crafted and a perfect example of the importance of the right song in the right place and it all sort of having its reason to be there and its job to do within the overall piece of the album. So I discovered this album when I was a teenager. It's never been off my my rotation. I'll drag it out every now and then. Some of the tracks I will listen to here and there because, as I said, these days I tend to not throw an album on so much as often as what I used to. Back in the days of actually throwing the vinyl on the record player and having the sleeve in your hand as you're listening and you're poring over the lyrics and the credits and the photos and all the packaging that came with it that has sadly gone by the wayside in this digital age. But yeah, I've loved this album and I hope that I've had something interesting to say about it for you and yeah, again thanks to you fellas for inviting me on and allowing me to share my my thoughts and what this has done, what this album's meant to me through my life.
Okay, so just thank you, John. So I just want to give people a bit of a taste for something that we discussed last week, and we haven't organised the date yet for this before the Rock Professor says his thing, but I'll give you guys a taste. The next album we're going to rank with John is Scarecrow by John Cougar Mellencamp, or John Mellencamp. Cool. That was definitely one album that we were talking about in the background. And I've been cheating because I've been listening to that bloody album this week, and it's phenomenal. It's just, yeah, I've been cheating. So we definitely have that one locked in for John ZD351, folks.
All right, so yeah, that's at least two more that you're going to get from me. So yeah, because we're definitely going to do Born in the USA at some point, and and then any other ones that we may have missed along the way, I'm happy to go into, and yeah, always happy to jump in if I can. If I unless I've got something particular going on, I'm usually here on a Sunday, and I'm happy to be here yammering on about something as much as I am just to sit in the chat and fire off some smart ass remark.
Appreciate it. Thank you, brother. Simon.
Yeah, no, so yeah, we appreciate it greatly. And Hugh's coming on next week, and as we say every week, if anyone else wants to come on and do an album, we're up for it. You can see the structure. It's flexible, as John's done something slightly different. We flexed him with that. That was absolutely fine, and still seemed to work all right to me. But that's fine. So I'll say goodbye to everyone in the chat. So thanks to Hugh. See you next week for another great show. Ellen Toll, Helena O'Hara, lovely to see you, Helena. I'm glad you're back. Hopefully we'll see you next week. That would be lovely if you could make it. Squeeze it in amongst the stuff that's going on. Let me see. I have to go back a bit. I think some people went to bed halfway through, quite rightly. Hugh and Alex Radford, who gifted 5 members. Alex, thank you so much for that. That was a very generous thing for you to do. It's fantastic. And 5 people there who got gifted members for that. Sorry, I was Gret Zeppelin as well, Emmett, Anthony Bowen. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Jonas Halberg, Jonas, good to see you. Hope you enjoyed it too. Gret, I think John. I think hopefully that's everybody. Anthony Bowen, yeah. God bless everybody. Emmett, thank you so much all, and we'll see you next week for a Sheer Heart Attack by the Queen. Take it away, boss. Bye.